Welcome back to pixelprojectradio. This is the finale, the final part 3 of our Outer Wilds critical analysis. I'm joined once again by Josh from the Still Loading podcast. Josh, thanks for joining me again, man.
Rick, thank you once again for having me on. I mean, I guess it would be kind of weird that I was on for the first 2 parts and then you'd bring in like a ringer for the third one. So I guess it's not that weird, but I'm still grateful to be back. So thank you for having me on. Looking forward to closing this out and discussing the ending of this game.
I am too. At the time of recording this episode, we just released our first episode, and it's been received quite well so far. It's the third new release in a row that's set an all-time download record. I don't talk numbers online or really at all, but that was nice to see. So thank you everybody for your support and for checking out the work that we're doing over here. It's really appreciated that you're all enjoying it because, you know, we put a lot of effort into it, put a lot of ourselves into it, and it's nice to know that it's appreciated and enjoyed. That said, since this is being so well received, I would be remiss not to do just a little plug up front. I just wanted to remind everybody, we do have a Discord server that's free to join if you are interested in keeping up with the show, keeping up with the community, and it's a nice place to hang around, chat with other folks, and sometimes get some things in advance. We also have a Patreon if you're so inclined. You can find all of these links in the description, but we'll talk all about that later. To start with, and I just talked with Josh about this off mic, breaking news. We've got some late community correspondence. This is from regular corresponder and community member Dave Jackson. And he was bummed that he missed the community correspondence when he saw the episode come out today, part 1. So he asked if he could write in. I said, sure, just get it by tonight. And here's what he has to say. I think this is going to be a good capstone for the entire series. He says, I think I ended up respecting Outer Wilds more than actually having the spiritual experience that lots of people seem to have. It's a miracle that this simulated world and curiosity-driven exploration can touch on so many wonderful themes, but my problem was that I had such a hellacious experience, at least the last 3 hours, trying to actually pull off the final sequence to get to the ending, specifically with the anglerfish section, that while the ending was playing out, I was still so tilted that the message slid off me like Teflon. I can go back and watch the scene again in a normal state of mind, but I can only see it, not feel it, which is the thing that game stories can do so well. I still completely understand anyone who holds the game in rare air. Never heard that phrase before. And I think I still do too, despite my ending being ruined. That's a strong reaction, ruined. An ending is ruined. We're not doing the Family Guy bit. That's just how I talk sometimes. I've heard the mechanical challenges that some folks have, and I did die in the last key mission, which we'll talk about, but I don't know. I don't consider myself very technically mechanically skilled at anything, but I didn't have that difficult, certainly not a hellacious experience with navigating this game. What about you, Josh?
Me either. I did also die in that last segment, which caused a game over, which I don't think we've explained why that would be just yet. So did we mention at the end of the last time? I don't remember anymore. But I also did not have that much of a trouble. So, Dave, I hate to say it, but get good. No, it didn't really, it wasn't that bad for me. I do remember trying to figure out the anglerfish section, but I just mistimed it the first time, and then after the first time, I tried it one more time, and I think I got it on the second attempt, and that was it.
Yeah, I think for me too. I think I talked about this on the last episode. Like you, Josh, I can't remember anything anymore. But I have this experience with games wherein, and this is going to sound pretentious a little bit maybe, and I apologize, I don't mean to be, but a lot of this stuff I don't even consider whenever I'm judging it as a holistic work. You know, it can be technically frustrating and it can be annoying, and I feel that in the moment. I definitely had some moments where I was like, oh, come the fuck on, whenever I was, playing this game and I couldn't get things to line up just right. But I don't even consider that whenever I'm looking at the work as a whole. Same thing can be said. I know this isn't a great example, but I think of Mortal Kombat. I love those games, but for a while there, especially I'm thinking Mortal Kombat 9, they admitted to programming Shao Kahn to literally be cheap, like a cheap boss. And in the moments, it's rage-inducing, but as a whole, I don't know. I hate how this sounds, but I look at things more holistically than that, and the little things, and that's why I wouldn't be a good game reviewer, like capital G, capital I, for a website, because I don't take little things like that into consideration. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know. I sound douchey saying that, but do you know what I mean?
No, I think you are able to. I mean, it's kind of like being able to see the forest through the trees, right? Where you can have you can have an experience with the game, and one negative or positive thing for that matter doesn't completely color your entire view of a game necessarily. For me, I actually am kind of with Dave, where not with Outer Wilds specifically, I didn't have the same issue, but I have played games where the rest of the game is really good, but there's one section that's so mind-numbingly enraging that it colors my view of the rest of the game. And instead of compartmentalizing that one section, be like, well, the game overall is good, it just has this one bad section, it really paints the game in a negative light in my mind. I can't think of exactly a game off the top of my head the last time this happened, because it doesn't happen often, mind you, but I do know that it has happened, and there have been games that I can't even look at with a rational eye anymore, because actually, you know what, I can, and I'll spare the rant, but like Dark Souls.
Oh, sure.
I can't look at Dark Souls with a rational eye, because I spent so much time on the Bell Gargoyle bosses, and that made me so mad that I can't look past any other positives that the game may bring.
Yeah, that's the classic example, and I've never beaten any of the Souls games. When I was playing through Demon's Souls, I absolutely got tilted and angry the whole time I was playing certain sections, but now looking back, it's like, yeah, that game is fantastic, and I can't wait to beat it. I don't know. It's, different folks will respond differently to different things, just like any medium, music, film, whatever. But we've got a lot to get through today, and a lot of the big discussion that's going to be super fun is towards the end. So why don't we go ahead and pick up where we left off last time in Dark Bramble? So we left off, we met Feldspar. He's not dead. We can't bring out our dead, because he's not dead yet.
Can't bring out the roses.
And he says just this. He says, what? Me? Killed off by thorny extra-dimensional plants that entirely violate the laws of space and time, and a couple of giant predatory fish with gaping maws and enormously sharp fangs? Not in this lifetime, buddy. So he's fine. What ended up happening is what we learn. His tales of valor may have been a bit exaggerated, can we say? He kind of stumbled into being this amazingly well-sought-after, brilliant pilot. Did he have skills? Yeah, sure. But how he ended up here was he kind of descended into a crash landing, and he zigged where he should have zagged, and suddenly he's crashed up into an anglerfish skeleton, which I think we mentioned last time. Like, he's here because they're territorial, even though it doesn't seem like they are in the game, but that's what they say, so it's fine. But that's how he got here. He stumbled into his success, which, as far as I'm concerned, fine. Earned. No notes.
What is he, Elon Musk?
We talked about him too much on this show.
We don't have to go any further into it.
He's come up a weird amount of times. I wish that I never had to think about that man ever again.
Well, we can jump off of that very quickly, so we don't have to think about he who should not be named for the rest of the episode.
Oh, great. Now I'm thinking of J.K. Rowling. Fuck.
I made it worse, oh no.
Fuck. Yeah, I didn't have a ton of trouble getting to Feldspar. You also don't encounter the anglerfish going to him. At least I didn't the last 3 times I went to him. I don't think you do.
No, there's anglerfish leading up to him, and then once you get to the area he's actually in, it's really not too bad. And I guess because we're like at Dark Bramble, which is really the final spot for in the game. Like, it's the last place you have to go. I guess we are. Oh wait, I see in the outline we are still going to talk about the Ash Twin project. So I'll save what we have to do. Like, should we talk about the core? Is what I'm. You know what I'm saying? Like
we are, but I would wager to guess that folks listening this far have experienced the game, or just truly don't care about spoilers. And if you're in the latter camp, please reconsider. But yeah, I think spoilers are fully on the table.
Well, then, just we can touch on this briefly and then go into more depth when we get to the Ash Twin project, the Ash Twin project part of the episode. But Dark Bramble is the last place you have to go because essentially you're taking, I don't know, I forget what it's even called. It's essentially an energy cell. Like, for all intents and purposes, it's not that, but for all intents and purposes, it is. And you are taking it to the Nomai ship that originally crashed here years ago, and that's the final objective. Why are you taking it there? We'll get to that in a moment, but at the very least, it just explains the final mission that you're doing. And the way I got through Dark Bramble, I don't know how you did it, Rick, but I used the signal scope to find Feldspar, and I actually have a strategy of how to get through Dark Bramble, where what I would do is I would match velocity with the planet, right? So that way you're just kind of in, like, orbiting at the same speed or whatever. And then I would bring out my signal scope, aim for where Feldspar was. Like, I would kind of be sitting right at the mouth of, like, the entrance of it, right? And then I would aim for where Feldspar is, and then I would floor it until I got out of the mouth, and then I would just let it drift.
Yeah.
And that served me really well. And then once if you play it enough, you realize that the anglerfish will not chase you when you're in the mouth of each section. There's almost like it almost looks like honeycomb, right? Like there's like little circles, and they break up the inside of Dark Bramble. They have different sections that you can go to. I haven't mapped it out. I don't know exactly which one goes to which place and whatnot. But if you use the signal scope to go to Feldspar, once you're at Feldspar, you can actually find your way pretty easily to the Nomai ship. But I'm sure there's a way to get straight to the Nomai ship. Maybe you did it completely differently than I did, Rick, but I would always go to Feldspar first. And so when I got to the mouth of the next section, right, the next opening, I would like, if I couldn't adjust the ship on the fly, then I would like slow it down real quick, aim, and then speed up again real quick, and then let off the acceleration so that way the sound wouldn't carry past the anglerfish. And that's how I got past it. So the first time, I think I tinkered around in Dark Bramble before having to do that mission. And then once I finally kind of understood the mechanics of how the anglerfish work, like once you understand how they kind of listen, it's not easy to get through, but it's also not that challenging once you understand that mechanic. That's part of the mystery of the game, is that you don't know how they work until you do enough research and explore around the universe to figure out what they do.
Right. So I'm going to reel us back just a little bit. A couple of things. We talked about Dark Bramble and how it works at the end of last time. Just as a refresher, think of a TARDIS, a pocket dimension. You enter the seed, it's bigger on the inside, and inside this pocket dimension are other pocket dimensions. That's how you navigate. Your signal scope is going to take you into Dark Bramble and then into these other Dark Brambles inside of Dark Bramble. Space doesn't work the way it does here in Dark Bramble. It's completely different. And that's how we get there. The anglerfish, you can actually learn this in the Anglerfish Cove. You learn this from the Nomai, that the anglerfish are blind. They rely on sound. I did not find this out my first playthrough. I kind of did what you did. You just kind of experiment to see how fast you can go before they notice you. And the answer is you've got 1 bar of acceleration in any given direction. As long as you're not going into 2 bars or more, they won't hear you. Or you can do what you did and what I did as well, and just floor it into a seed, and then once you get into it, just
hope
coast.
With the right angle.
And that's particularly exciting because you are coasting just purely on momentum, no control, through this field of anglerfish. There's multiple of them, which is how maybe they're territorial in terms of like families or packs, but you're flying through there, you see a nest of them with eggs. And if you're coasting, it's very tense, and it feels almost like a horror game, and you're sitting on one ass cheek the whole way, just hoping you don't have to divert course too much. But you can use 1 booster's worth, and once you get to Feldspar, yes, there's none over there. Before we talk about the vessel, Feldspar tells us a couple of interesting things. If you haven't figured out how to get to the core of Giant's Deep, this is where he gives you that hint. We talked about that last time with the jellyfish. He'll also talk about the bramble seed on Dark Bramble, or on Timber Hearth being a really, really bad thing. What happened out here is that a bramble seed, we had mentioned this before, that this planet used to be a completely different planet, totally normal planet, until a bramble seed took over it, and it just infested it like a virus, going all the way through, permeating it to its core until it just took it over and exploded the thing. That's why we can find remnants of this on the moon. And that's what bramble seeds will do. So that being on Timber Hearth is doomed. If we don't get it out of there, Timber Hearth is going to die if the sun doesn't get it. We got to get it out of there. But Feldspar will tell you that. He'll praise you if you got to the Giant's Deep without his help, without his notes. He'll tell you you're a good little astronaut. You could tell him about the anglerfish, and he says, so my plan of just flooring it down here did not work and could have used some tinkering. But he, I forget how you find the vessel. It's with the distress beacon. So there are escape pods. We talked about the other 2 escape pods, and there's one down here as well. If you use your beacon, you can find it. This is escape pod 3. It crashed on the way out of Dark Bramble. This is where the vessel crashed. It shot the other 2 escape pods out. This one crashed down here. What ended up happening was the breathable air was lessening and lessening. Suffocation, no breathing, was gripping them, and they had just enough time to get to a signal of the vessel. They figured they'd go back there and refuel. The weird thing is because of how space works down here, they were getting 2 readable signals. And maybe, Josh, I will fully admit at the front of this episode, my head starts to bend in on itself talking about like space-time and quantum stuff. Like I get it, but also I don't at the same time. I saw this really great reel this morning on Instagram of a professor, like a college professor, introducing his course to quantum physics. And he's like, I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is none of you understand quantum mechanics. But the good news is nobody understands quantum mechanics. He's like, I don't understand it, and in 7 days, neither will you. And it was exactly how I feel about this. But so here's what I'm thinking. Correct me if I'm wrong. Add your thoughts. They were hearing 2 different signals from the vessel. They went to the closer one, which ended up leading them to a seed. They went to the wrong one. They took the wrong gamble. And we actually see this here. They suffocated in space. They are floating in this chasm, preserved, but all dead. 2 of them are hugging. It's extremely, extremely sad. But they gambled wrong. I think what happens is it's not that the vessel is duplicated, obviously. It's just that the space kind of weaves in and out of itself kind of at the same time in a way that we just can't fathom on Earth, because that's not how it works here. So it was coming out of this seed while also being at another place, because that seed was feeding into kind of like a Mobius loop. I don't know, man. Like, this is so tough to explain.
Dark Bramble is like a weird, it's almost like a hive mind of quantum mechanics. Because like, if you think about it, like when the Dark Bramble seed lands on Timber Hearth, right, you can see Feldspar by shooting a probe through the Dark Bramble seed on Timber Hearth, right? Like you can actually see his campsite. But when you can't get to it, obviously, because you can't fit through that spot. But then if you go to Dark Bramble, then you actually can. So it's like he's appearing at 2 different locations at once, hence the kind of like quantum shenanigans going on. But it's also like a hive mind, because that seed is not connected to the Dark Bramble planet at all. So they're all connected in this weird quantum entanglement space. It's almost like the Dark Bramble seed has its own space-time continuum inside of it, right? That almost is what it feels like. So I know I don't understand it. Like I'm trying my best to put my thinking cap on and sound really smart. Like, oh, it's all this, and this. I don't fucking know, man. It's weird. I don't understand how, like, if you're in Dark Bramble, how you can see 2 different signals of the same thing. I understood it when you were outside of it, because it like you were seeing two different spots at once at the same time, sort of. But I don't know. It's very strange how that worked. So it confused me as well.
I bet there's like a Science for Kids website out there somewhere that could explain this so succinctly and so well. Probably with they like take a piece of paper and turn it into a tube and then fold the tube in on itself so it's like a donut. And it probably looks something like that. And then they twist it or something. And it's perfect. That's a little life hack for you. If you ever don't understand a science thing, try and seek out an explanation aimed at children. And it's always perfect. Like they explain it great. Because, children.
Mm-hmm.
For now, we actually can find the vessel here. We know how the seeds work, right? We know that they're pocket dimensions. We know that if we shoot our scout into it, it's going to appear elsewhere. So that's what we do. We know that the vessel's signal was coming from this seed. We know that they couldn't fit through it, which is unfortunately why they died. So we shoot our scout, we go back to our ship, and we find the vessel. We track it down that way. That's when we have to go through the field of anglerfish. But we eventually find it. We find the vessel, and it's this amazing moment. You're coming up on it, and it's in the distance, and you're awestruck. There are so many awe-striking moments in this last stretch of the game. And there are a few Nomai skeleton around here. It's crash-landed. The bramble thorns are just infesting it. And it feels like we're walking on hallowed ground when we walk in. And what's interesting, too, is something, well, we obviously didn't talk about it because we haven't been here, but the Nomai writing functions more like a message board than I think I gave it credit for, because in addition to them writing to each other, they could also receive transmissions, kind of like a phone call, kind of like SMS text messaging. And we see that inside when we walk in. This place is totally barren. There is one Nomai, I think it's Eskel actually, that's writing on the walls like, "Hey, we're in desperate need of help. Our vessel is dying. Is this thing broken? Can anybody hear me? Please, we need desperate help right now." And his writings go totally unanswered. However, on the other side, we can see a new generation of Nomai writing that shows us that they could still receive messages but not send it out. And this new generation is very, very interesting. It's started by a Nomai named Kanna, and they say this: "To any Nomai whose vessel can hear this message, it's clear the universe is dying. There are fewer and fewer resources and safe places within space now, so my clan and I believe the best option is for all of our clans to stay together. If you can reach the gloaming galaxy, we've found that Blackrock's suns are fairly stable, and life in this star system is, comparatively, thriving. We live in relative safety. If you prefer to continue exploring alone, know you will be on your own." And the message goes on, like other Nomai come in, and what they talk about is this rumor, this fable that their ancestors' passed down generations and generations of Eskel's missing vessel. It's the only time this has ever happened in all of Nomai history. Obviously, we just saw Eskel's messages on the other side. We know that they didn't just vanish. They crash landed and then got wiped out by the ghost matter. But, this is emphasizing that the Nomai thrived for generations, and they're probably, as a species, still alive today, right? They just went to a different galaxy because they saw suns imploding, going supernova all across the galaxy. This, I know we ended on this last time, but the Nomai didn't blow up our sun. It just happened. The universe just is, right? That's what Solanum said. And that's what's happening all across the universe. Galaxies upon galaxies are just blowing up. And this nomadic tribe said, "Hey, we got to stick together, and we found a safe place. So come on here." Too bad about Eskel, though. It's a tragedy, man. It's a tragedy.
I was thinking about, like, at work today, I was actually listening to our first episode, right? And prep, kind of get myself back in the mindset. I really had to, like, I think this game, what's so amazing about this is that there is just so much I shouldn't say it is amazing, but like I had to really think about how the timeline of events occurred, and like you talking about, like I completely forgot about this with Canna and the fact that there's a whole another set of Nomai tribes who have found some new place to live. And I was thinking about just like the timeline of the events of this universe, of like what happened to the Nomai here. And I mean, I know we've laid it out over the course of this, but it's just one of those things where because you learn everything in so many different locations, it can be hard to kind of put the timeline together of what happened. And just thinking about, you talk about how like, well, they were already gone, you know, like the ghost matter killed them. Like, every time we talk about this, I just kind of come to a new epiphany about this game, and it's just blowing my mind every single time.
And that's the beauty of it, right? This game does what all art should do. It fosters community. It's bringing us together and sharing our experiences. That's why this succeeds so much. I tell you what, though, you talk about like, it's hard to keep this straight. I'm remembering and learning new things every time. I was fighting the battle of my life, dude, playing this game. I don't know if you know this about me, but I get very stressed playing JRPGs and visual novels, two genres that I like very much. I get stressed because I don't want to miss content because those games are usually so long. And I worry that like, what if I like miss something so cool that brings all the story together? Like the rug, it really ties the room together. I don't want to miss it. So I got to use a guide. And with this game, obviously, like I looked up a guide for one specific part and I regret it to this day. So I was like fighting with myself. I can't do it, but I want to. What if I miss something? You can go back to it.
That's almost and the like, beauty of not knowing, you know? It's almost beautiful to not know about stuff in this. Like the fact that we have questions about it. Like I think really what it was for me was like realizing that the whole plan, we talked about it at the end of the first episode, and we talked about it last episode too, about how like the plan to supernova the sun, like artificially supernova the sun. And I was thinking like, okay, but for some reason in my head, I kept thinking like, did they actually do it? And then they do it, then the time loop happened, and then they don't do it again, type of thing, which is possible because if they artificially supernova the sun and then the time loop sets it back, and then then they don't have to worry about it. But I came to the realization that the way the game kind of presents itself is that they died before they could do it, and the sun just happened to supernova on its own. Like when you're playing it, you just happen to start the game 20 minutes before a supernova, and because of that supernova, all their preparations that went into place kind of just happen at that point, right? Like it almost like you talk about in the first episode how like it was just us, you know, why us? There's no reason. We were just there at the right place at the right time. Just like, why did this all work out? It just happened to work out. Like it's super, the fact that we got stuck into a time loop is also random because they prepped this 20-minute time loop to like test something so they could find the eye of the universe, but they never got to implement it. So when the sun actually does die, it sets off its own time loop by accident. Right.
And they mention this in one of the upcoming logs that we're going to see, where they say, it failed. That's a bummer. I didn't want this. We could try again, or we could just wait for the sun to explode on its own, but aging is going to prove to be a problem. So they knew this would happen. Mm-hmm. They thought that they would be able to make it happen before the interloper exploded.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so fantastic, dude. Now we're going to be coming back to the vessel, obviously for Endgame. But before we do that, there's an optional bit, and I am gobsmacked that they put such an amazing piece of content in as optional. Did you visit the Quantum Moon?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So I did too. And I'm guessing we had the same experience when we first saw the Quantum Moon. When you see it, you look away and then, oh shit, it's gone. And then the second time, once you realize what it is, you stare at it and you fly toward it and you get up to it and you go through its atmosphere and all of a sudden you're back in space and it's just
You were
gone.
doing exactly the same route. Yes, exactly the same thing where I'm like, what the fuck is that? Where did this planet go? And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's what it is. And then I try staring at it and then you just phase right through it because you can't see it anymore.
Now, across the universe, across this galaxy, There are 3 quantum trials, I think they're called. And what they do is they teach you, well, they teach the Nomai. This was part of their preparation to go on their pilgrimage to the quantum moon. But they function now to teach us, the player, the hatchling, how quantum mechanics work. There are 3 quantum rules. The rule of quantum imaging, which teaches you that observing a quantum object works whether you're looking at it for real or looking at a photograph of it. But you do have to be looking at the photograph. That's key. That's the first one. Quantum entanglement is the second rule. That means that if you're standing on a quantum object or otherwise touching it, you become quantum with it. So if you're touching, let's say how the game does it for you, if you're standing on a quantum shard and you shut your flashlight off, you can't see anything, you now travel with that quantum shard. Quantum entanglement. And then the third rule is specific to the shrine on the quantum moon. The Nomai traveled there as a pilgrimage. It was sacred to them. I mean, here we go again, the intersection of science and religion. This was sacred to them. And the sixth location, the third and final rule is that you will always end up on the south pole of the quantum moon. Whenever you go to the quantum moon, you always end up first, when you first land, on the south pole. They say in the game, Solanum writes, we don't know why this is, but it is. It's just true. And the reason that's important is because once we get onto the quantum moon, once we take the picture, look at the picture while we land on it, boom, we're on the South Pole. There's going to be a shrine in here. And you get into the shrine. In Nomai writing, it'll say, congratulations, you remembered the first rule of quantum of quantum business, or however it's phrased. Yep. And it says, please remember the second 2 rules, quantum entanglement and being on the South Pole. We want to get to the North Pole. And this part did confuse me a fair amount. So do you want to explain how this works? If you remember, I don't want to hog the mic.
At least for the quantum entanglement, yeah, I can explain that, because I forget the third rule already, I'll be honest with you. But the second rule, quantum entanglement, basically, they test you this out. You test this out and you learn about this in like actual practical use in one of the Ash Twin moons or whatever, where there's a quantum rock that bounces from cave to cave system to cave system. And the way they teach it to you is that there is a series of lights in this one room of the caves, and that's the easiest spot for you to make this rock appear. So what you're supposed to do is turn your flashlight on, turn the lights in the room off, and then if the rock is gone because you had to look away to do that, you turn your flashlight on and off again. So by turning it off, it goes pitch black, meaning you can't observe the rock anymore. And then when you turn it back on, it may appear there. So you keep clicking it on and off until the rock appears.
I meant, did you want to explain how the shrine on the quantum moon works?
From what I remember, I went inside and I just turned my flashlight on and off.
Right. So there's that little map that's on the inside that'll tell you around which planet the quantum moon is orbiting.
Oh, yeah.
That's one thing we learned from their writings of the Nomai, and we can see this with their trackers too. The quantum moon can orbit 6 different locations in total. I don't remember them all off the top of my head, but Timber Hearth, Giant's Deep, and several others. And how we have to do this, it's a little confusing. So we go inside and we shut all the lights off. There's a switch to turn the lights inside the shrine off, and we switch our flashlight off. And that'll let the shrine travel. Now we're still on the South Pole or in the Southern Hemisphere, and we have to make it such that certain planets will let you walk to the North Pole on the quantum moon where others won't. Mm-hmm. So you have to, the one that I always aimed for was Giant's Deep. So you get on the Giant's Deep, you can walk to the North Pole, and from there you kind of just play peekaboo with the quantum shrine. You look at it, you look away, you spin in circles, and you just wait for it to populate at the North Pole, right? Mm-hmm. From there, you're able to get back in it and go to the 6th location.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's this part was a little fun because I remember struggling with this part of the game. I remember it took me a while. I was able to figure out how to get to the quantum moon, and then figuring out the puzzle with this shrine. I didn't look it up, but it did take me a little bit to figure this out because it was a little bit. This was one of the trickier challenges, if I remember correctly.
It definitely is. This and getting into the Ash Twin project, I think, are the trickiest parts of the game. If you try to exit the quantum shrine on the quantum moon when it's orbiting the eye, you're going to be when it's not on the North Pole, you're going to be blocked in by quantum material, like shards of rock.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's really cool about this is because the moon is quantum, it like absorbs the characteristics of whatever it's orbiting. So when it's orbiting Giant's Deep, everything is storming, there's water everywhere. When it's orbiting Timber Hearth, it looks like Timber Hearth. So once we get it onto the North Pole and we get it to that 6th location orbiting the eye, we're able to get out and we see fields of just purple, blue, black-hued space rock, quantum shards. Just like this place is now made out of quantum shards like we've been seeing everywhere. And it's totally desolate and empty. And we keep walking, and I cannot believe this is optional. I thought this was actually the end of the game. Whenever I first arrived here, I thought this was it.
Because the whole time you're like being told, oh, you have to get to the eye of the universe, and now you're orbiting it, right? You are finally orbiting the eye of the universe, so you would think like, oh, I'm here, I made it. But no, that's not what it is.
And moreover, part of what the Hearthians are doing, they're studying the Nomai. And what made me think this was the end is you walk forward and you see in the flesh, as sure as the night is long, there's a living Nomai standing there. It's Solanum.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is it. Like we've got to the eye. Well, I thought we got to the eye, and there's a living Nomai. Like, this is it. We're done. Like, this is amazing. The two of you can't speak to each other, though. There's a language barrier.
Yep.
What they're able to do, what Solanum's able to do, is they draw up this, she draws up this, like, little platform with a total of 6 different, what do you call it, discs? Stones?
Yeah,
tablets?
and those discs, I remember correctly, you see them in other parts of when you explore the planets, right? When you're exploring the other planets, you might see those discs in other locations, if I remember correctly, and they would let you. It was the same thing. I think we talked about it before, right? It was a thing that lets you view like locations on other planets, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same exact principle, but Solanum makes ones for us whole cloth. She makes the following. There are 2 orange ones, identify and explain, those 2 verbs. And then there are 4 nouns, Eye of the Universe, Quantum Moon, Me, and You. And you can combine these in any combination you want. And I sure took a lot of notes here. I just want to read a couple. But before I read them, like, did this just grab you as much as it grabbed me? My jaw was on the floor this whole time. I was so shocked and pleased and happy and also a little bit concerned for Solanum. I didn't how is she here? Like, what did you feel seeing this?
I was just, I kind of was in awe. Just like, I finally met a Nomai. Like, the thing that I've come to hear about for the last however many hours I was playing, I'm finally meeting one. I'm finally meeting whatever this thing is. I don't even know really what to make of it. And I remember the problem is I remember the puzzle, how to get to the quantum moon, more than I remember the quantum moon itself. So I don't remember the conversation I had with her with these things, but I love how the ingenuity of Solanum, how without missing a beat, she's like, okay, I know how to communicate to this person, even though we can't talk. By doing something even that simple, it just kind of shows the the ingenuity of the Nomai, just how intelligent they are. It was really cool to see the first time, and I remember I don't think it quite had as profound of experience for me as it did for you. The ending was a lot more of a jaw dropper to me, but this, it was just,
oh yeah.
It was, once I realized this wasn't the end of the game, it was just another beat on my radar, if that makes sense. It was not a beat on my radar. It was another entry in my data log for the thing.
It's another notch on the bedpost,
There we go. I do, but I love being able to see a Nomai in person, though. I thought that was amazing. Really cool.
I only wish we could see them without their spacesuit. I really want to see one. They've got a lot of fan art I don't know. Fan art never really revs my engine the way it does for some people, but there's a lot of fan art of Nomai if you want to see them unmasked. But here it's, just their spacesuit. You mentioned their ingenuity. Absolutely. If you combine the two verbs here, identify and explain, on the little quasi vision pool that Solanum has, she writes out every time you combine them, she writes something out that you can read with your translator, by the way. And if you do identify and explain, she says, these are the two tenets of Nomai philosophy: to seek out and to understand is our way of living. Brother, you want to talk about the intersection of science and religion, science and faith, to seek out and to understand? I mean, that's at the core of both. And ideally, I think that's the key to living a good life.
They essentially turned science into a religion with this, where like they treat the, science is about, the constant understanding and knowledge of our natural world around us, right? Like trying to explain the universe that has been presented to us, type of thing, right? So I love that they kind of took that, and instead of they almost treat knowledge as a deity in this.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
For all the good and for all the ills too, right? Like they're trying to literally explode the sun. And that prompts and provokes these questions, like how close can we fly to the metaphorical sun, not the physical one, but to the metaphorical one before our wings of wax begin to melt? How worthwhile is knowledge at the expense of well-being of others? And this is something they consider too. They're not totally discompassionate, right? Like I believed at first they were totally discompassionate for the sake of science. They're not, because they didn't want to blow up the universe. They had a plan. But it is interesting. We get both sides of that deification of science. It's not a wholly good thing, right? Like literally everything in life. If anybody tells you, and I'm about to do the Twitter thing where I'm like, well, obviously I don't mean this and I don't mean this. You're gonna have to just
pre-arguing. I understand it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to just be adults and infer some of the things that I don't mean. But nothing in this world is black and white. Truly, nothing is. Everything is shades of gray. And so too here, the pursuit of knowledge at the expense of everything can be worthwhile and can be pure and just, but it can just as easily melt those wings and get us into some serious trouble, as it did with them, right? I mean, think of Poke and Pie. They were playing around in the interloper and were the first to get incinerated, destroyed, right? I mean, it would have been their fate anyway, but, anyway. I apologize. I don't mean to be rambling.
You don't have to apologize at all, man. I think it just makes me think it feels like when people think that there's only ever going to be black, like there are some black and white things. Like, don't get me wrong, there's obvious, I know what you're saying. There are absolutes out there to a degree, but it's a lot less. There's people who want to believe in that there's only absolutes and there's not as much gray. I feel like I'm not even trying to insult them. I feel like they just don't want to deal with the complicated reality of things, right? And that's all the Nomai are consistently dealing with, the complicated reality of their existence. And they're always, but there's almost like a hope in their science, in the sense they're in this awful situation. Dark Bramble has taken over their initial ship. They're stranded in this solar system that they don't understand, trying to find the eye of the universe, all this stuff. And instead of just giving up and be like, well, our ship crashed and we're kind of fucked right now, look at what they did, right? They didn't take the universe as a binary black and white, but well, this is bad and we are meant to die here. They took it as an opportunity to explore the gray area, which is just such a cool, it just makes them that much more interesting. The Nomai are such an interesting, they're a character. I know they have characters that you meet through the text, but the way they're portrayed in this game, it's their overarching philosophy is a character in and of itself.
I think I'm going to get this a little bit wrong. And if I get it really wrong, I'll re-record it. But this notion of theirs to not accept the black and white, I think black and white thinking is easy, Josh, in real life and in fiction too. But it's easy because it doesn't require that extra mental effort.
Yes,
Immanuel
exactly.
Kant, was it Kant? No, it was Albert Camus, the philosopher that coined the absurd, said that the only philosophical question in life is whether or not to die by suicide, whether or not to take one's own life. And he goes on about this in the myth of Sisyphus, which is good. I don't mean to say he goes on, but, in addition to physical suicide, another suicide he talks about is philosophical suicide, wherein one chooses not to seek out the extra knowledge and one chooses to just believe, like blind faith is, I think, the example that he often gives. And again, I might be reducing this overly so, but the Nomai stand in opposition to this. They do not accept that. They want to be in all of the nooks and crannies of the world. And it's beautiful. I really think it's beautiful. I'm going to go on plenty at the end, so I want to read through some of this. If you combine explain and the eye of the universe, and this is important for the ending, Solanum says, conscious observation forces a quantum object to collapse to a single possibility. But what would happen if a conscious observer somehow entered the eye itself? Over time, this has become my clan's greatest question. Now, the eye of the universe is the greatest of all quantum objects. It has been around since prior to the universe. It has infinite and no knowledge. It is everything and nothing. What happened if a conscious observer forced it into a singular state of existence? And a better question for all of you out there is, can you comprehend such a thing? Because it's tough. That's when my mind starts to fold in on itself a little bit.
The only thing I can think of is that if a conscious observer would observe the eye of the universe, then and force it into a single state because it is a quantum thing, entity, not even entity, quantum, just thing, like whatever. It's a quantum. Like you can't really define it. It almost seems like to me then, if the eye of the universe is able to be everything or nothing and it has all knowledge and no knowledge, then by forcing it into the constraints of whatever the observer can see, then it would essentially, like, imagine if like some omnipotent, not even omnipotent being, I can't say the word right now, but imagine if it was just like, right when the eye of the universe is not observed, there is an infinite number of possibilities of worlds and universes it could create. But when it's observed, then the observer will directly influence the type of world the eye of the universe would create. And which kind of makes me think about the ending of the game when we get to it. Like
yes.
Yeah. That's all I want to say before I didn't want to go any further without like talking about the ending.
All I'm going to say is I'm going to put a pin in this because that is directly related to how I view the ending. Solanum will talk a little bit about quantum stuff that we already know. If you ask her to talk about you, it's a little cute. She says, I hope we can consider each other friends, even given the language barrier. I like your 4 eyes. I like that a lot. It's just a cute little touch. Before you leave, though, going back to that quantum idea, she says this: you may think I'm strange, but I have a hypothesis that I may not be entirely alive. Perhaps my journey has reached its end. She also says that we're orbiting the eye. Like, we're not on the eye. We can't, this is the closest we've ever been, the closest we can get as far as we know. And the way that you leave this is by sort of jumping out towards the eye, and that takes you back onto the quantum moon. It'll be orbiting somewhere else. And when you do this, Solanum's dead body can be seen. And no matter how many times you turn around and relook, it'll be there in all possibilities. This is another area where my brain starts to get a little bit folded and stacked on itself. Like, I understand conceptually Solanum is both alive and dead because she has essentially become a quantumized object with the moon.
Yes.
What with being there, presumably being there when the interloper exploded. But that's about where my understanding ends. Like, I have to just tell myself that that's true and I accept it. I can't think about it too much more. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm publicly admitting that I'm kind of dumb, but like, that's about as far as I can go. I have to just say, yeah, I accept it,
I mean, you shouldn't feel dumb, man. I mean, like, this quantum, like that professor you said that you mentioned earlier, like where you're not going to understand, like after these 7 days, you won't understand quantum physics either. And I feel like at least with this, like, I don't know, it almost seems like there's, the 2 possible outcomes. Either you just accept it and you're at peace with not knowing, or you accept it and you're like determined to figure it out. And I don't know. Sometimes I'm just at peace with not knowing, depending on what it is.
Yeah, that's a weakness of mine. I'm forever trying to make sure I understand everything, and yeah, once it gets to more like abstract stuff, like towards the end, like all my training in the arts has trained me to like, there are no right answers. So I can argue when there's no right answers, but and when it comes to science, it's like, sometimes there are right answers, and sometimes you're either right or you're wrong, which I don't think is quantum. I don't think it's that simple. Otherwise, it wouldn't be quantum mechanics.
And real quick, I'm sorry. So when you said with Solanum and how she is Solanum, right? Wow, now I'm blanking on this. Yeah, when you see her body later on, is that after you've left the 6th location?
Yes, it's after you've left the 6th location. It's on every other location. So she
she's
is tied to that.
She's tied to the 6th location, and if any other location, she's just not alive. That's wild.
Yeah, it's sad. It's kind of that's another thing this game kind of toys with and asks you to consider is this idea of immortality. We are immortal. We get to see 3 sorts of states here. We have our immortality where we're Groundhog Daying every day, right? We get the same 22 minutes over and over, and we get to change, but we're functionally immortal. We also have the Nomai who were wiped out, and we've got Solanum who is kind of both. She's both at all times and at no times. And I think it's kind of implicitly asking you to consider the beauties and the horrors of each of these. I mean, it's really easy to think about, immortality. I feel like everybody thinks about this, about how amazing and terrible it would be to be immortal, right? The profundity of eternal knowledge and time, but you're also seeing everybody that pass away. You're seeing unending existence. It can be not just tedious, but taxing, versus obviously death, like, the great anxiety. I mean, we see every philosopher and thinker has spoken of this, but then we've got that third thing with Solanum being both at the same time. And
being aware of it, which is the crazy thing.
And even it almost sounds like, for as smart and brilliant as the Nomai were, and as prodigious as Solanum seemed to be, or at the very least precocious, having all of these observations about God in the eye whenever she was a kid, even she is not sure. So that kind of existence where you can never be certain. It's fascinating too, because like there is a philosophical angle where one could argue that is the case for us now. Like there's a really, I apologize for another diversion, but there's
no, it's fine.
A very interesting thought experiment called Last Thursdayism that states the universe came into existence last Thursday. There's really no way to disprove this if you think about it enough, because it can be such that all of our memories are fabricated. We have no way of proving anything except for the present. So if the past were an elaborate reconstruction of memories within us, we would have no way of truly discerning this, right? Now, nobody believes this. It's just a thought experiment that gets into the nitty-gritty of consciousness and observation, but it sort of ties into what we're seeing here. The great, consciousness is the great observation, right? That is the observation of all observations, is consciousness. And I wrote that later in the notes with regard to the ending. It's so, this stuff is so cool, man. And you could talk in circles, but I love it,
Something you brought up that really just like piqued my interest too, the idea of like immortality, like as presented through this game. And I think you touched on a little bit, but the different types of immortality, quantum loops and whatnot that you're experiencing, the kind of immortality that Solanum is experiencing, where you're neither dead nor alive all at the same time. And then the Nomai, it's almost like historical immortality, right? Like where their knowledge is the thing that gets passed on. So while they may not be there in their physical forms anymore, they are immortal because people still remember them and discover them and like learn about them long after they've they're dead. To quote a philosopher of our time, Raheem Jarbo, aka Megaran. I don't know if you ever listened to Megaran's music or not, but he has a song called Infinite Lives, and the whole, I should look up the lyrics so I can actually get it right. What is it? Infinite lives, we got infinite lives. Never say never. We're gonna live forever. You only live once. Well, I'm gonna disagree, because you can live forever, and forever doesn't cease. Live through your creations and the people that you meet. So I live through my music eternally through the beats.
Yeah, it's that idea of like every man dies 3 deaths: the death of the body, the death of the soul, if we're thinking of faith, and the death of the memory. Right, and I think Billy Shakespeare said that like 2 deaths.
No,
maybe
Billy Shakes.
I think I might have added that third one, but yeah, and I mean that ties into this idea of generational memory and species memory and just organic life memory. This eternal unconscious, the eternal return of, oh God, here we go, JRPGs. We're back. It's so fascinating. I posted an Instagram rant today about, the question in our games are, that's done, that's passé, it's not interesting to talk about anymore. What's cool though is whenever you do find that one stuck-up person, like maybe an orchestral musician that thinks that, and I'm not calling anybody out, I'm making up a person, games like this are what you can point to that say like, games go there, they examine the great unknowns of life, and they do it in meaningful ways. It's just a new medium, right? The same pushback happened whenever movies began to speak, like talkies, or movies in general. Like we've seen this time immemorial, this looping, and how appropriate is that we've seen this looped in before, and we will see it again within our lifetimes. I'm sure you and I are going to live to a point where we are saying this about the youth. Like, we don't understand. Why are you doing this seemingly worthless thing? And in time, maybe even if we get reborn, we're going to see that we were wrong, because that's just how generational growth goes. It's amazing. And you see it from games to hip-hop rappers to philosophers. And that's the beauty of it. It's not gate-kept knowledge. Everybody can ponder this.
No, you're right. It's almost like we're in a cultural time loop. We just keep, it's a cyclical thing, right? You something new comes along, and then there's naysayers and there's people who are for it, and then whatever is meant to actually last will last, obviously. But like, so maybe that's a little bit of like cultural evolution in the sense of things that survive and don't. But I don't know, that is it. There's so many different places you can go with in this game.
For now, why don't we go to our final destination? Let's go to the Ash Twin Project.
Man, you are great at these transitions.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
All the big Patreons.
Yeah, all like 10 of them. No, I'm just kidding.
Those dear, lovely 10 patrons.
Hey, we have more than 10 patrons, I'll have you know. And you can be one of them, one of these more than 10 at patreon.com/pixelprojectradio. The Ash Twin Project, that's on our final planet, the Ash Twin. It's the one that orbits a shared center of gravity with Ember Twin. Remember, think dumbbell. The middle of the dumbbell is the sand bridge that links them. The Ash Twin Project is here, but on Ash Twin we also have the 4 warp towers that I think we talked about. Now, the Ash Twin Project, getting into there is a little tricky. I admit I had to look this up. I'm not proud of it. Because of how the center of gravity works, the Ash Twin Project is in the core. The Ash Twin Project,
It's in the core of one of the moons. I can't remember which one, but it's in the core of one of the moons.
No, it's in the core of Ember Twin. That's what it is, I think.
One of the that's what I meant. One of those the Ember Twin moons,
yes.
Like the Ash Twin and Ember Twin. And I guess you're on the Ash Twin planet that then warps you into Ember Twin, the core of Ember Twin.
Right. And because of how the center of gravity works, the sand bridge is going to be right above you as the warp the warp window is active, so you have to boost down with your jetpack so as to not be sucked up into the sand dune, and that's what'll take you to the Ash Twin project. That took some time for me to understand. Not proud of looking it up, but in my defense, it seems like a lot of people do. At any rate, though, you get into the Ash Twin project. It is completely encased in the iron ore from Timber Hearth, to protect it from any outside forces like supernovas. And the devs covered their bases here really, really well. It's really clever, actually, because you need to go here to beat the game. So if you happen across here without exploring some other key areas, they give you all of the information you need inside of here in writing and in projection stones. It's really brilliant. Now, because we aim to be comprehensive here at Pixel Project Radio, we've talked about a lot of this, so we're just going to hit the greatest hits real quick. The ATP was connected via the warp towers. We mentioned that. The memory statues are all here. They're all in a big circle. Only 3 of them are active, though. Gabbro's on Giant's Deep, ours on Timber Hearth, and the probe tracking module. They were ready. Whether success or failure, they were ready to go. I forgot to write down who said this, but one of the Nomai say, "We're nearly ready to activate the Ash Twin project. Here is what will happen." So they're giving you a play-by-play of what's going to go down.
Yep.
First, the sun station will receive the order to fire at the sun, prompting it to explode. Or, in our case, wait for however long it happens naturally. Using the energy from the resulting supernova, the Ash Twin project will send the order for the orbital probe cannon to fire back in time by 22 minutes. This is why they needed the power for that 22-minute interval. Exactly 22 minutes after these orders are received, the sun station will again trigger the supernova to send the data from this cannon launch back in time. In total, each cycle created by the Ash Twin project will last precisely 22 minutes. We can end this cycle at will, just continually going back to have a functionally infinite number of launches to give the best probability of success for finding the eye. Now, the sun station does fail, as we talked about. The Nomai are despondent. The ATP is sound in theory. This is where they talk about waiting for the sun to die naturally, but, they would all age out and die. And this is when the interloper comes into the galaxy. They get excited. They put the Ash Twin project on indefinite hold until they can find a power source. They've been dormant for so long. They're a nomadic people. They want to explore this new comet. And that is ultimately their end before they can figure out the ATP. Now, here's something that maybe you can help me with, Josh. I get time travel... I'm listing all of the ways that I'm just intellectually
wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff.
It weirds me out because, like, in theory, okay, so they send it back 22 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. Now we're in the past, and we see them debating about this philosophically, but we're in the past. Wouldn't we then create a new timeline? So wouldn't like if we right now, as we're podcasting, send this back 22 minutes? We would still functionally be here, and we would still functionally die with the supernova, right? It would just be the branching timeline that stays around, or would it get overwritten? I'm so like this really confuses me.
The only thing I can think of is that, because essentially when the theory behind this, right, is that when the supernova goes and it causes the time loop, it's because it's essentially creating a black hole, and they figured out how to use that black hole to send you back 22 minutes, right, by using the energy in conjunction with everything, if I'm remembering correctly. Right, like that's what is happening, because like they first discover it when they have the black hole in Brittle Hollow, and you come out the white hole, and by essentially when the sun goes supernova, they have enough energy to create their own black hole and white hole that would shoot them out 22 minutes earlier. That's the theory, if I'm remembering correctly. I wonder if this is a big if. I am not well versed on this, and anyone who is well versed in quantum theory and mechanics is probably going to laugh at me. But I almost wonder how, like, think if quantum is like dealing with space and time, right? Like that kind of thing. Imagine like the universe, not just the galaxy, but the universe like a pond, right? And when a sun explodes, it's like a rock going into a pond, and it will ripple out however many, miles, thousands, millions of light years and all that other stuff, right? theoretically, eventually that there's not even going to be a wave anymore. And so maybe that time loop, since it's such a small black hole, it only that the ripple from that time loop is small, and so it only affects the beings in the galaxy you're in. So if that little time loop that they spark from the supernova, not the black hole from the supernova, but the thing that they spark from the supernova, maybe it only ripples out so far because it's a lot smaller than a giant fucking sun exploding, right? So by shooting off a probe cannon, and once they're beginning to it reaches outside the distance that the ripples would affect it. And so they can shoot all those probes. And so when they travel back in time, that probe is already out and searching. I don't know if any of that made sense.
I think we're on the right track here. And I think the masks and the statues have something to do with it too, but they're not activated until the Ash Twin project is successful.
I don't think that they were shooting thousands upon thousands of tries, because this is the first time. Like, theoretically, it would have only worked for the amount of times that you, like, say you died like 50 times over the course, or you reset the time loop 50 times. There'd only be 50 probes going out.
Well, no, we see all of them though. In the probe tracking module, we can see all like 9 million shots that they made.
Oh, then yeah. I have no idea.
This is a perfect conversation that we would love to invite listeners to partake in the Discord. The Outer Wilds subreddit is really active with theories and fan theories too. Like we said, that's part of what makes this game beautiful is it provokes conversation. It prompts community correspondence, conversation, things like that. I don't think Josh and I are going to figure out this on air. That's not the point.
Right? Rick? Are we going to just accept the fact that we don't know?
I think we have to. I think this is a therapeutic exercise, and that's not the point of it, right? So let's bring this conversation inward and say, if you would like to participate and maybe help guide us to understanding, and we could all mutually guide each other and become better for it, a better community. You can do so in the Discord server, link in the description, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But I want to continue this conversation. I really do.
Yeah. Tell me why I'm stupid, listeners. I like, that's not even like, I'm making a joke out of it, but I would genuinely like to understand what happened.
So the final thing we do here is we grab the advanced warp core. This is a very powerful warp core. It is shaped the exact same as the one that's in the vessel. So if you get to the vessel before the Ash Twin project, you can kind of have a little hint that way. You can also piece it together through the writings. But what we're going to do now is we're going back to Dark Bramble. Once we have the advanced warp core from the Ash Twin project, we're taking it out. Immediately when we get in our ship, the final track begins to play. And, oh man, it gave me goosebumps as I was driving towards Dark Bramble to make our final voyage. You can die here, this is a bit of comedy with what I'm sure is the music playing right now. It's a bit of comedy. I crashed right into Dark Bramble. I was going way too fast. And I crashed and I died. So I got the "you died" ending. Did you do the same?
Yep. So I didn't crash, but I did get the "you died" ending, because you're supposed to take the warp core to the vessel and then input the coordinates for the Eye of the Universe, which the one, whatever, I can't even think of it. You know what I'm saying? That the thing was able to find.
The probe tracking module.
The probe, thank you. I don't know why. Probe, I could not think of the word probe for some reason. The one probe was able to find. I didn't quite put two and two together right away with that. And I remember, I think what actually happened was I figured out the puzzle of how to get to the Ash Twin project and the core in the planet and get the actual like power core or whatever for the vessel. I figured that out probably about 10 minutes into the loop. And so I was like, okay, let me try. And I was thinking, like, maybe they'll let me finish the game before I get to it. So I got to the vessel. I could, but they did not pause time. Let me tell you, listeners, they did not pause that 22-minute loop once you do that, which makes sense. The sun's going to go supernova no matter what. But I got to the vessel and I couldn't quite, I was like trying to still solve the puzzle. So it took me a little bit, and then I finally figured out the puzzle, but by the time I had figured it out, I was inputting, I think, the first of the 3 coordinates when the sun went supernova.
Oh, no.
And I got the game over screen. I went, no, or something like that. It was like close to it. And so then I had to go back and I figured it out.
You know what's tragic, too, is if you make it to the eye of the universe, you can watch the sun go supernova and you're fine. It's been established in the game. Like, the eye is just way, way outside of the sun. It still orbits it, but it's so far out there that you can watch the universe. You could watch the galaxy go supernova and you'll be fine. We should say, too, there's another alternate game over you can get in the Ash Twin project. Whenever you take out the warp core, a black hole is left behind, and I haven't done this, I just read about it. And you can jump into that black hole, which sends you back. It kind of functions as a reset of the loop, right? You think that you're just ending a loop, and it sends you back in time 22 minutes. But it sends you back in time the 22 minutes prior to the sun going supernova for the first time. So when you go back to the Ash Twin project, you can find yourself there. Like there's a clone of you. It's you. And you can talk to yourself. And there's a lot of cute, funny dialogue. You could be a little snarky or sarcastic. But then if you don't jump back into that black hole, and again, this is another thing that kind of twists me up logically. How I've seen it presented online is you're making a promise to yourself, a promise to the universe, whenever you jump in the black hole, that you are going to do it again whenever you find yourself. So if you die after jumping in, once you see the double of yourself, if you die like from the supernova, that breaks space-time and the universe falls apart and you get a non-standard game over.
Wow.
It's crazy, dude. There's another way you could do that at the high energy lab if you're playing with the black hole, the black and white cores, the black hole, white hole cores.
Really?
Yeah, you can. If you power it up such that you shoot your scout into the black hole and it comes out early in the white hole. You remember that?
Yeah.
If you do that and you take out the black hole core before your scout goes in it, but after it comes out of the white hole, that breaks space-time down immediately. And you get this funny little, the theme of the game, da 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 da. You get it played on a bunch of kazoos that are really out of tune. It's pretty funny, but yeah, you can break space-time. It's great.
That's awesome. It's shit like that where it's rewarding the player who understands the science that the game is trying to teach you, not necessarily teach you, but the science the game is using. So if you understand it, then you could maybe poke around at the edges and be like, oh, I could will this break their logic? And they thought of it apparently. That's really funny.
I got to do it. I did that one with the scout. I've never jumped into the black hole at the Ash Twin to see a double of myself. I've got to do it. But let's say you don't do that. Let's say you don't crash into Dark Bramble. Let's say you don't figure it out too late and get incinerated as you're putting in the coordinates. Let's say you put in the coordinates, you put in the advanced warp core, you hit go, and you are taken to this eerily quiet place. You look outside and it's just black. You can see some storming. Mm-hmm. We are at the eye. The surface looks pretty similar to our visit to the quantum moon. There's quantum shards, quantum trees, and a storm is half violently just raging everywhere, especially on the South Pole. Mm-hmm. And when we get to the South Pole, we're walking around. Flashes of lightning are bringing quantum objects into and out of existence. When we get to the South Pole, a hole appears in the sky. This is the eye of the universe. And we're about to find out what happens when a conscious observer enters the ultimate quantum object, the ultimate thing of existence and non-existence simultaneously being condensed into a singular point of existence. We're about to find out. You walk onto the planetary architecture. It's like a crater-ish thing, and you're able to hop into the eye. We plummet down, columns of interplanetary material and quantum stuff pass us by. The sound is building and building, and before you know it, we plop back into the darkened hallway of the museum from early in the game. There are some differences in the material. You can like read about it. I'm kicking myself for not writing them down. At the top of the museum, there is a galaxy, like a little model of the universe. And we get one prompt whenever we walk up to it, and it is observe. We are doing exactly what man, I got to reel myself in. We're not even talking about the themes and ideas. I can't get choked up now. Let's just get through this, and then we could talk about how freaking cool this is. We observe, we interact with it, and the camera immediately zooms out of the museum, out of the village, out of Timber Hearth, and the galaxy. Clusters of stars form galaxies. Galaxies form clusters. Clusters form superclusters, and we, our perspective completely shifted, are able to touch one of these superclusters, causing a scatter of light, just fireflies dancing in this space. But we know that that is millions of living things, stars and galaxies within. And we move forward, and it appears we're moving downward into a forest. Each of these pinpricks, thousands of dancing fireflies that represent galaxies that we can touch and disintegrate, galaxies that explode on their own. The universe, as we know it, is dying before our eyes, and isn't it beautiful?
It's funny because the way you described it, I was genuinely confused when I first played this, but that makes perfect sense with the observe, and so it zooms out and you're observing the whole oh my god,
well, think of what happened. We have taken the ultimate form of observation, consciousness, and applied it to the ultimate form of quantum, of simultaneously existing and not. When these two great forces meet, they're going to butt up against each other, and sometimes things fray at the edges. And what we're functionally seeing now is the universe saying we can't have this. So we should have started with this. We are in no way saying that this is the solved ending. This is like the ending explained, because if you see a video that says the ending explained, they didn't. It's not that kind of game. But this is just our interpretation. And I mean, like, here, functionally, we are kind of like a deity here. We're going to see that in a second here, but we're seeing the universe die out because something that shouldn't have happened is happening. And now, we are larger than life, literally. We are in a new plane of existence, and things are snuffing out. We hear an unidentified signal. As we land in this forest, and we hear a signal. We bring up our signal scope. The only thing that we have are Outer Wilds Ventures, and we hear breathing. It's you, quantum you. If you try to interact with yourself, you disappear in static. You turn into a tree. Then if you quantumize it again by looking away or turning off your flashlight, it turns into a campfire. You light the campfire. It could never begin or end with anything else. This symbol of primitive light and all-encompassing community. We turn away from the campfire, and a rocking chair appears when we look back again. We repeat, and it's Esker. And he says, "Do you hear music?" And this kind of begins our final little mini puzzle of the game. Before we jump to that, Josh, I think I interrupted you a little bit. Did you? Please, by all means.
It was going to go into kind of just interpreting some of the stuff. I don't know if you want to save that for themes or whatnot, but just what I kind of looked at with the campfire. Since we have so little quote unquote game, let's talk about this final part here. So here we're gathering the rest of the musicians, the rest of the Hearthians, one by one. What did you think of this little part? Playing it the first time, I didn't understand it. Playing it now, and honestly, believe it or not, I feel really stupid having doing this, but I read the Wikipedia entry for the plot, and it actually helped me understand a little. It put me on at least a train of thought to understand, or to come up with an idea as to what is happening here, right? At least my interpretation. So when you first arrive there, like you said, like you saw, it's a quantum version of you, then it's a tree, and then it's a campfire, which kind of symbolized to me the beginning and death of the universe. Like the tree is like full of life, and now the campfire is wood burned, right? And it's ashes. It's ashes. Like the end of the universe is happening, and it's what the remnants of it, of all the different planets, all the different trees in this campfire, it's been burnt out, it's been used, it's just a shell of a fire there, right? But you light it again because the world goes on in some way, shape, or form. And as you piece together your little ensemble of comrades that you've met throughout your adventures between Gabbro and Feldspar and oh my gosh, why am I blanking on some of the other characters' names? But I keep want to say like Perch. It's not Perch. Who's the dude that's got a really short name? Chert. Thank you, Chert. What a great name. But as you're piecing together your ensemble from all the friends you've made between Gabbro and Chert and Feldspar and you name them, you gather them around the campfire, and as they each lend their individual musical voice to just kind of almost like a group of friends just having one final hurrah before the end of this journey, right? And or at least if not friends, it's actually kind of more beautiful than friends in the sense that these are all part of your community. You may not be friends with them, but you are all on this same journey, and you're all here at the end to experience the end of this journey together, whether you knew you were on the same journey or not. And by playing music, you see the smoke coming out from the fire and creating what looks to be a new universe above it. And it's a new universe being created from the memories of all of these disparate wanderers and these disparate adventurers who didn't really interact much with each other. Kind of similar, like it'd be like people from all over the world coming together to create their own type of like cultural, like a cultural conscious almost, to give birth to this new universe. And that's what it kind of meant to me when I was watching it. It was the collective experiences of all these people who it's not a group of friends, it's just humanity, it's consciousness, it's life, like all the experiences of just literal life around the universe coming together to help mold and form this new young universe that just gave birth at the very end of it. And that's what it happened. That's what it meant to me. Like when I was watching it, it was a really almost like hopeful view of death, in the sense like that even when our universe dies, our consciousness will still somehow be given in some way, shape, or form, whether maybe not directly, but even indirectly, it will help form the next instance of life, which I thought was really very heartening almost.
That's absolutely part of it. And consider too, you had mentioned the trees turning into the campfire, which is then relit. We're regressing from tree to campfire to ashes. It's the end, but it's also the beginning. You are the one that turns into the tree. Quantum you, the hatchling. This all begins with you. And this is an interpretation I just came up with like over the past day or two. I don't want to gloss over the campfire scene though. You gather each of your comrades' instruments, and it demonstrates it in a way that you know them. This is entirely representative of their memories to you, right? Rebek's banjo is in a Nomai building, and you have to kind of look away and look back. The building will get destroyed a bit until you can get inside, right? Chert, who is having existential dread over supernovas, you see his bongos floating like among a field of mini suns, stuff like that. The Nomai one is beautiful. Solanum will join you if you found her. If not, she's not there. But if you did, you hear her music. It's a sort of keyboard instrument. And you go to this clearing, and there's Nomai skeletons standing. They're pointing up at the sky, where you can hear the signal scope is saying that Solanum is coming from. And each time you look away and look back, there's more Nomai, and they're pointing at the sky. And then the next time you look back, they're going towards this stump in the middle of all of them. And then the next time, there are Nomai skeletons on the shoulders of those standing on the ground, and then their standing on the shoulders of the people, until they form a ladder that is almost reaching up high. It's one of three things in this ending that just made me sob. It's a beautiful representation of this idea of everybody and everything building on what
came before,
what has come before. Yeah, exactly. Like it's generations upon generations, and even more locally, it's communities upon communities, families upon families. It's this beautiful thing. One of the things too, whenever you bring all of these people in, your comrades around the campfire, you can talk to them before it's time to start.
Yep.
And they muse about existentialism. And Rebek has a line. It's probably my favorite line in the whole game. I got to take a deep breath here. Rebek says, "The past is the past, but that's okay. It's never really gone completely. The future is always built on the past, even if we won't get to see it." Even as they're facing, and they all, when you speak to them, they kind of know that something huge is coming. They know that this is a major event. In some ways, they know that they're staring the end of the universe in the face, and they've become so accepting of this fact because everything we've seen shows, it tells us that time is cyclical in this way, that we may die, but the universe continues to get rebuilt. Well, I'll hold off on that, because what happens is, around this campfire, one by one, you tell them, listen, it's okay. It's time to start playing. You begin this most sacred of rituals, of music. Once again, fire, the symbol of the most primitive and visceral symbol of humanity, fire, community, and now song. Sacred and primitive and human, innately human. One of the things that makes us so. We begin to play one by one, and when everybody is joined in, everybody is a community, we are seeing the birth of a new universe. This, like you alluded to, this planet starts to form above the campfire. It begins to build above the campfire, and what's interesting is that we, the one that turned into the tree, that turned into the campfire, the ashes, and then rebirthed with fire, we are the ultimate observer. We don't have an instrument. We are the overseer, the leader. We conduct this ensemble of rebirth. We have functionally become the ultimate being. This is all because of us. That's a core message of this game, I think, that I missed the first time around, is that no matter how small you think anything you do, it has consequences, and it builds, and it has effects. And here we see it here. Everything we've done, that the hatchling has done, is resulting in this, the birth of a new universe. And it happens. The camera pulls back immediately once we interact with it, to the extreme, in a flash and a bang, and we get the creation of another universe. 14.3 billion years later, comes upon the screen. Mm-hmm. A new life-sustaining universe is formed, with insectoid life forms, if Solanum was met. That's a little Easter egg. We see them. Planets, stars, everything, accompanied by a single musical voice, a lone cello, sotto voce. It's simplicity. It's the root, if you'll pardon the pun, of all harmony, of all counterpoint. Just one single voice, enough to start a community. A new world ushers us into this new life, all created by us, by our actions, seemingly small as they were. We did this, and I think that's core of this. We talked a lot, Josh, about the cyclical nature of community and standing on the shoulders of those that have come before, and how the death of one universe is a necessary and beautiful thing, even though it's scary, and we have thinkers like Schopenhauer that talks about the will to life being necessitated by the fear of death, and Epicurus saying there's no need to fear it, because when we are, death is not, and when death is, we are not. We have thinkers all across the world. The rapper you mentioned, not Mega Man. Megaran, speaking about this idea of what it means to die. And we're seeing it here too, that we have created new life, and through this too, new consciousness, and by extension, new observation. And what if this new form of ultimate observation yields a new life cycle? What if when consciousness is taken away, who is to say when consciousness is taken away and observation along with it, that all possibilities cannot begin to exist and not exist? And who's to say that one might not be one in which we are reborn and rebuilt? There's just so many different ways I feel like we could go down this, and it's so beautiful. And strangely, like I left this, I read online a lot of folks say like, yeah, I left the ending, I was terrified of the death of the universe, but I think it's hopeful. It's far more hopeful than that. It's showing that it's inevitable, it will happen, but that doesn't mean that we will die in any sense of the word. And in many senses, we continue to live on. And maybe it's not our physical beings, but we are also one with the universe. We are a part of it. We just created it. We are physically a part of it now. And maybe we will stay connected to it as we go into the next one and we become a part of it. And do you know what supports this theory is if you shoot your scout into the eye of the universe before you jump into it, however many minutes ago, if you shoot your scout in on this ending slide with the planets and the insects around the fire, you will see your scout shoot across the galaxy in the back. You will see it there.
Wow.
Now, you would assume 14.3 billion years would degrade any and all metal that we know, but yet there your scout is zooming across the sky. So who is to say this new observation, when observation goes away, who is to say that a new one is not born anew and that the cycle cannot continue and we maybe still are alive in some way? Whether it's the same as we know it now, well, I mean, we can't say, we can never say, but maybe we will be. I don't know. I'm gonna be profoundly embarrassed listening back to this because I'm not really super comfortable with how much my voice was cracking and wavering. And
no, dude, this is what games, and not just games, just art is meant to do. Like, and it's this, man. There's so many different things that are popping in my head right now. I'm trying to like put them all together in some semblance of an order that actually makes any sense. But like, this is why I like games so much. Like, this is why I like this medium, and then in turn the community that you and I and everyone who listens and everyone here is like a part of, whether it's our podcasting community, whether it's like the friends of ours that all do podcasts, or the listeners that support all of us. Like it just kind of, I don't know, it makes me think about all that in the sense of like there's so much. All right, so instead of trying to figure out what the fuck I'm even trying to feel, because my emotions are like yours. I got lots of feels right now, Rick. What I want to say is just, I guess to break it down, a couple of things you talked about made me think of like some other what if scenarios, and like, could it mean this and could it mean that, and like interpreting things in different ways. And when Solanum comes and you see all the Nomai like reaching up for her, it very much feels like she is the epitome of her community's effort for striving for knowledge, right? That even in their death, their quantum entangled death, they are coming here to support and pass on the information that they've obtained via Solanum, right? Then when the universe gets created, it's not just the fact that you and your adventurer allies and friends and compatriots and just acquaintances are all there. You're breathing life into the universe with song, right? Like you're creating, and not just a song where you're playing a beautiful piece of music, but it's a song played in a community representing how like humanity, or how life exists. Life exists in community, in harmony with each other in order to survive, right? Like, look at the environment and how we have to, we should be taking care of our planet. That's a different conversation for a different day. But like, when the new universe does get created, I the first thing that even signified to me that our generational knowledge of the previous universe that had, other than us creating this new one, really didn't have any direct contact with like any species that evolved after the however many billion years, right? But the music you hear is the same melody that you played to create the universe, but done in that single voice, in a different voice too. It's not any of the same instruments. It's the same melody being sung across multiple universes that have been since created. Like what instrument was played for our universe when it got created, right? What were they using? What song were they singing around the campfire to create our universe before it came to us?
And who's to say, too, we created this new one and we're now hearing a new instrument. Our instrument was never revealed. Who's to say that sonically this isn't representative of us, that we've ascended, and though we no longer exist in the physical plane, we are so at one with the universe that it's become a sort of cosmic melody.
And then who knows who the like previous people who have like died with the universe and created a new one, are they playing in cosmic harmony with us now that we've been added to it?
Exactly.
Right? Like and like I think, because you can talk about all these things and talk about interpreting a game in this way, and if you haven't played the game, it sounds very kind of like the way we're kind of describing it. Almost sometimes I wonder, when you talk about something like this and you really dive into like, what does this mean? What does that mean? What's the meaning of all this? It can come off, and I don't think we're doing this just to be clear, but it can come off as pretentious, right? That joke that you would see in like, was it fucking American Beauty with the dude filming the plastic bag in the wind type of shit. And that it comes off as pretentious. Like, look, this is the meaning of life, man. I don't think this game is doing that. I don't think this game is talking down to its audience or to the audience at all. It's just talking to you, not down to you, and you can read into it however you want. But I think what makes this game so special is that it feels like no matter how you interpret it, whether it is as deep as we're trying to like really dive in and like talking about like cosmic harmonies and or like sentient beings coming into grips with sentient observational beings coming into contact with quantum quantum creation and all this other shit. Take all that out of it, and what you boil this game down to is community. It's about a community of people going out and exploring the world and trying to do good, in a sense, like whether it's, and not always do good. There's people who there's the gray area of like, how much are we willing to do for knowledge? Like you see with the Nomai, or in just like in the normal back and forth and arguments you might see within the dialogue between you as the Harthians or the diaries that you read of the Nomai. But it's a game that's meant to illustrate community and humanity, and ultimately how we move, how it transcends after you die. Whether it's as deep as we're going into it with, what if you're this quantum being now added to the quantum heart, blah, 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 all this other shit. Like you don't even have to read into it that far if you don't want to. It's you creating a community and passing that information along to the next generation. And as much as it is scary to die, and it is scary to not know what happens at the death of the universe, whether it's your universe or the literal universe of our sun exploding or something like that. There's this, it is very hopeful in the sense that this game tells you like it's going to get passed on, and we just don't know how yet.
And that's precisely why I don't think it's pretentious, like you were saying. It would be pretentious to take a more, and I'm reading a lot of Schopenhauer right now, who is a little bit before Nietzsche. Schopenhauer and Nietzsche are both kind of like the I am 14 and this is deep starter pack of philosophers. Like that's who you turn to if you want to be like, whoa, this is so deep, man. And like it's because
for me it was Final Fantasy VIII. That was my I'm deep for a 14-year-old starter pack.
It's because they're so they're pessimistic largely, or antagonistic. And if this game had fizzled out like that, like the death of the universe is coming, so this was all for naught, who cares? That, I think, would
Nihilism.
be completely insincere and pretentious and trying to puff up this artificial message. But instead, they opt to be sincere, and they opt to say, look around you. Look not just at the community of Hearthians that you have with Chert and Rybeck and Hornfels and Esker on the Moon, and even the folks in the village making sap wine or playing hide and seek. Look at that community. The Nomai, who have died thousands of years before you, are functionally a part of your community now through the writing and through their ever-present, presence in the universe. And now we are going to become that for the next universe. Those weird insect-looking things are going to be thinking of us in the same way. It is hopeful, like you said, Josh, and that is precisely why it's not pretentious. I think that's, I mean, I can see somebody looking at this and saying it sounds too Pollyanna-ish and saying that, it's naively hopeful and that's not how it works. Whenever life is done, we're done. And that's it. Sorry, Cupcake. Like, do you remember, and you might remember since you said you listened to our first episode today, in the first episode, I said something to the effect of, like, I don't think I believe, but I desperately want to in an afterlife or things of that nature. It's stuff like this that makes me think about it more, but also brings me a sense of, like, serenity, like peace. Like, I want to believe that I will go on after the big sleep, even though empirically it's unlikely. I still choose to believe that in some way perhaps it's true, perhaps it's possible. When the great observation of consciousness fizzles out, who's to say what possibility might snap into place? I mean, shit, man, when we measure electrons themselves, it's a sort of quantum thing. Electrons kind of exist all around their band until we measure their frequency, at which point they snap into a fixed place. Otherwise, they're kind of everywhere all at once. A side note, I did not look up science for kids, so I'm kind of fuzzy on that. I tried to do a lot of science today amid a hectic workday, and it's a struggle. But I don't know. I feel like some listeners are... I feel like listeners are either going to love or hate this conversation because it's so abstract. I try to make the podcast that I would listen to. I love this shit, but I could see people saying, like, you guys aren't actually getting at anything and you haven't decoded anything for me.
But that's kind of the point. That's the fucking point, though. We don't know. That's I think sometimes it gets under my... The reason I was bringing up the pretentious thing is not that I think this game is being pretentious in its ambiguous message. I think it's the opposite of that. Or not ambiguous message, but ambiguous delivery, maybe is a better way to put it. But the reason I bring it up is because it would be easy to slip into that. And I feel like generally the people who either say, like, oh, you shouldn't be reading that far into it, life's meaningless. Like, looking at finding a pessimistic outlook at reality is easy because reality is hard, and it's when stuff is hard, it's not always going to be fun. And so when it's not fun, you're going to have a negative outlook on shit. And I'm not saying this, like, oh, just have a cheery disposition and shit works out. I understand that's not reality either. Like, you can't, like, hopeless optimism is also not, like, hopelessly optimistic also isn't necessarily a good thing. But I do think it's an easier mentality to get stuck into the hopelessness of, like, non-existence, right? Of just the idea that we're just not going to exist and that's it. And who gives a shit about the rest? It's almost a very selfish way to look at it because you just want to make yourself feel better that you're tired of thinking about being afraid of not knowing what's out there. And this game almost feels like it's taking that argument and be like, yeah, we don't know what's out there. We're taking a wild fucking stab at this, but I'd rather think that we don't know what's out there, and when we cease to exist, something in us, even though it's not going to be ever credited to us or known about us, but we push something forward. We pass some type of knowledge or culture or consciousness to the next generation, whether it is a direct familial transfer of knowledge or a cosmic one that we can't quantify. And I think that is a lot more of a hopeful way to look at the world than just be like, why even bother existing if all that's going to happen is that I die and then that's it. Like nihilism feels to me like it's only serves someone who doesn't want to think about anything else but themselves. I mean, maybe that's a little harsh.
I don't think it's harsh at all. I think it is a form of philosophical suicide. There was a period of time, and I don't want to get too far into this mainly because I don't want people to misunderstand what I mean, because this community is filled with misunderstandings. But there was a time when I considered myself a LaVeyan Satanist, and that does not mean devil worshiping.
I have no idea what any of that is.
That LaVeyan Satanism is functionally, which they would call that tautologically redundant. But all it is it's a form of atheism that is rooted in egoism, the philosophy of egoism that worships oneself as the god, right? Nothing wrong with that inherently, but it takes a special. I want to preface this by saying that I might word this differently on a different day, and I'm really trying to say this in a way that is respectful, but it takes a certain kind of philosophical, I don't want to say laziness, a giving up philosophically to just to just think that the universe is I, me, and mine, and that's the end all and be all, and fuck everyone else. And it's not quite solipsism, but it's close enough. I mean, I don't subscribe to that anymore. I think that's fundamentally flawed in many ways. I think, and largely because it's not. It is the easy option to think that way, to think so insularly with oneself. And of course, I'm being a little bit reductive. I apologize. I wasn't exactly planning to speak on this, but I think looking at things in the way that you've laid them out, with this idea of, it's not hopeless optimism, but it is seeing a sense of being greater than oneself. I think that's critical and important in a life view that is conducive to happiness, yes, but a sense of spiritual holisticness. I don't know. Are we saying anything? Are we just using buzzwords? I don't know. This is really difficult to pin down because language is not precise. It's as precise as we've got, but it will never do the job. I think... I don't know what I think. I think... I don't know. We're not...
We've broken him, folks.
I really, truly, I think like recording this episode on 10 different days is going to get 11 different answers, I think.
That's very quantum-y with numbers even.
Right? But it's not. I mean, it's not. I agree with you. I don't think it's hopeless optimism. I think it's greater than that. I think it is.
I also think sometimes having an optimistic outpoint, not even necessarily hopelessly optimistic, but like a more positive outlook. Who knows? Maybe everything does. Maybe shit. Nothing really matters, and maybe the nihilists are correct or whatever it is. It's all that matters is your world around you, and once you're gone, that's it, right? But I feel like if that's all you have, then that does nothing to benefit. Then the world would be hopeless, right? Like that does nothing to benefit the community around you. Like I almost feel like at this point, the game is just trying to tell us like the meaning of life is community, whether that is just so you're not alone, right? Like you build a community in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. I feel like we are kind of circling around a lot of different ideas at this point, but
that
and I feel like we
nihilism
could easily keep circling, but yeah.
That nihilism infects your brain like a dark bramble seed, really, and it infects your entire being. You begin to act in ways, even though you may not perceive it, you begin to act in ways that are poisonous to you and to poisonous to all around. Instead of like it's not so simple as just saying like for the greater good of humanity. It's not. It is and it's not. It's quantum. It is and it isn't. I don't know, man. I think we can at least say that nihilism is a form of poison. For I don't mean to shit talk Nietzsche, call him I'm 14 and this is deep. He was complicated, but he said that nihilism and the last man, a form of nihilism in Zarathustra, was going to be an inevitable end of humanity, and that we should avoid it at all costs. And to that, yeah. I mean, I think we can agree, and I think this game's message, isn't explicitly Nietzsche, but it goes there.
I'd be very curious, like what I'd be curious to hear Alex Beecham like talk about this, but at the same time I don't. I'd rather just keep this as ambiguous as it is.
You would even have to ask, would he have the answers? You know, I don't think so.
Yeah. No.
I don't think he would say, here's the answers, and like, yeah, you got it, or no, you were wrong. It's just like he's just another point on the quantum scale, right? I mean, all of this is I feel like I'm starting to be a parody of what we've been talking about. Like, all of this is right and it's also incorrect, but that's kind of true if you think about it, right? Like, none of this is correct, because there is no correct. This is it all just is. The universe is, and we are, right? So
it almost feels like this game is just it's a type of art that is meant to pose a question, and that's it. And I'm not saying that as a dismissive thing. It's posing a question because it wants you to think. It wants you to think about it in a weird sense for yourself, because everyone's going to take different meaning out of this. Like it's what each thing different, what each ending or outcome, or like what the ending truly means to them. I think really the only constant is like community, because that's in the game. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. You end the game. You begin the game with community, by the community of Hearthians sending you into space and questioning your sanity when you go through that first time loop, and it ends with you with your fellow explorers finishing the time loop. But the game ends with community. You all sit around a campfire and reminisce as the next stage of life goes on, right? So there's lots of ways you can really look at it, and that's kind of what it's meant to be. So I think that not to wrap up the episode for you, Rick, but I feel like that is like what this game is meant to be. It poses a question for you, and even then, like, the question, you could argue, is a little ambiguous, which is fine, but it at least gives you a setup and encourages you to start poking at the edges and explore for yourself.
No, your instincts to rein me in are correct. I think you're good there. No, you're right. It ends in that most sacred of ways, with community. And in some ways, that is the only true way to interpret this game, is by ending it and then engaging in that most sacred activity of bringing it to the community. And that's it. It doesn't matter what you say, and it doesn't matter how you say it. What matters is you are being a part of something greater, something you are engaged, becoming one with the community that is becoming one with a greater universe, and returning to that universe. And that is Outer Wilds.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
I feel like we just ran a marathon in our minds.
Yeah,
not saying we thought anything actually profound. We were doing a lot of thinking. Don't know if it actually went anywhere.
But I mean, the journey and et cetera and et cetera. You know, I said this whenever we did the reboot of Final Fantasy IX with Eric. If this series doesn't bring in at least a couple of new listeners, I don't know what I could do that would. This is some of the best podcasting I think I've been a part of. This has been really therapeutic and profound, and this is what art should be. You know, every time you listen to a Beethoven symphony, you can take something different away. Why should video games be different? Why should we look for games that just tell a story and that's it, wrap it up, wham bam, thank you ma'am, move on to the next one because we've got a backlog to conquer, god damn it. No, it's greater than that. It's stuff like this where you get to sit down with friends and discuss how it made you feel and what it made you think. That's what's important. And I hope, I mean, I've had a phenomenal time. I hope you have, Josh, and I hope that the listeners did too, especially not being an active participant. You know, I hope I edited this in a way to make me sound okay. I mean, Josh is already basically there, and I need the help. So I hope we did it justice.
Being too kind.
This is just phenomenal. And you know, it breaks my heart that we could never experience this the same way again. But
yeah, that's the heart. Sorry, not to go off one final thing, but the most heartbreaking thing about Outer Wilds isn't necessarily thinking about like what it means and the meaning of the game. It's the fact that once you beat it, you can't experience it again. The entire game is the joy of discovery of a community and the knowledge that the game, the world that this game shows to you. And that's why I said at the very first episode, Rick, how like when I went back to try to replay it in preparation for this show, I was like, man, I don't think I can replay this, because it's just like it was that one singular experience that like I know what happens now, unless I want to go back and reread stuff that I've already read before, but without the wonder, without the sense of discovery. Like, this game is truly something that, like, there's so few games that I've played that I can only play once, right? And like a lot of games, I actually recently replayed the first Ratchet and Clank game, because I'll be guesting on another friend's podcast to talk about that later on. That game still feels fantastic to me, and I still had just as much fun playing it now as I did when I first played it, right? Outer Wilds left such a profound impact on me that when I try to go back and play it again, it just does, like, yeah, I could play it again and still have fun with the game mechanics and this and that, but what really sells this game is just that sense of just wonder and discovery. And once that's all gone, like once the game has shown you what it's trying to show you, you can't get that back. And that's what in that sense, it's very much like, this is so fucking cheesy and I apologize, it's like life, you can only experience life once type of thing.
Well, it's, you know what, it's cheesy because it's a platitude, but here's the thing. Platitudes are platitudes for a reason. Life's greatest truths are not sexy. They're sometimes banal and sometimes repeated. What makes this game, it's bittersweet because yes, we will never get to experience it again, but it is teaching us and encouraging us to appreciate and embrace the moments and the present in which we are in. Depending on who you ask, the present is all we have. There is no past and there is no future. It is only the present. And, I think collectively between the two of us, Josh, we've tried to put a bow on this episode like 7 times, so I'm going to do an 8th one here. This makes me think of... This makes me think of one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite authors, Kurt Vonnegut. You need to take the time to reflect on when you were feeling happy in the moment and say to yourself, if this isn't nice, I don't know what is.
Mm-hmm.
And there, that's your 8th bow. We've wrapped this up like 8 times. Oh, but it's great. Well, this was fantastic. That about does it here. We can obviously, I think we're both really, really open to engaging in more conversation and talking more about this. You can do that with us on the socials. You can find links to those in the episode description. You can also do that by joining the Discord server. Again, it's free, again, in the episode description. Also in the episode description will be more links to Still Loading. The past 2 episodes in the description have had links, well, to the NoClip doc, but also to Josh's socials online, the interview with Andrew Prelo. Now, the last time we spoke twice now. We've recorded these episodes a bit spaced out, but not too spaced out. Last we talked, Punch a Nazi Month was underway, or about to be underway.
It's
coming up.
It'll be, oh my gosh, so when episode... Actually, now that I realize it, I think Punch a Nazi Month won't be starting until after all of this airs, because this is airing back to back to back in terms of weeks, right? Like,
yes, this episode will come out the first week of April.
Yes, so in about 2.5 weeks, the first episode of Punch a Nazi Month will be coming out, conveniently on 420. I actually genuinely did not plan that. It just kind of worked out. So I'm as crazy as that sounds, it actually worked out surprisingly well with that. So yeah, that Punch a Nazi Month, covering a bunch of games about punching Nazis, starting on April 20th.
Hell yeah. Did you want to plug anything else that's upcoming? I mean, I don't want to ask you to tease more than you are comfortable on your show, but if you want to, or if you want to talk about anything else you've got going on the socials, I know I tuned in to see a bit of one of my favorite Final Fantasies played on Twitch, Final Fantasy X-2, which
yes.
I would like to very much replay that a little bit, but we'll see what happens.
Well,
anything else?
I don't mind teasing that. I don't mind teasing that for your listeners. So my patrons. So yeah, you can find the Still Loading podcasts online at all the podcasting places. Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. I do have a website, stilloadingpodcast.com. I also have a Discord, but I never really. I'm bad at it. Join Rick's. I'm never active on my own, but I always have stuff going on the show. The time this comes out, Mario Month will have just ended, literally a couple days ago. By the time this episode comes out, it'll be my most recent episode. It'll be the last episode of Mario Month with Bill from the Gaming Collecting Podcast and the 3DO Experience. And then in April will be Punch and Nazi Month. And sometime, I guess I'm trying to think, the episode that we're hinting at, it won't be due out for a couple months. But Rick here is going to be joining me to talk about Final Fantasy X too. Once I beat that and everything, and my patrons voted for that, and I do have a Patreon. Not to shout out stuff for people to pay money to, but if you also want to get to help guide the direction of the show, it's only $1 a month, and Rick is going to be joining me to discuss a game my patrons chose, and that is Final Fantasy X too. So yeah, and you can follow me on social media at StillLoadingPod at Blue Sky and Twitch and Instagram and all that good stuff. And that was as disjointed as my thoughts were trying to wrap up this episode, so hopefully that enticed somebody. I don't fucking know. That's where my show's at, though.
It's okay. I have heard many a great podcast get frazzled talking Outer Wilds, so count ourselves among the greats, and that's everlasting. We're gonna sleep well tonight. I think you should all check out Still Loading. You can find links to Josh's stuff again in the description, and from those links, you could arrive at his Patreon, his Discord server, wherever you'd like to see him, Twitch channel, etc. Check us out talking about Final Fantasy X too. I love that game so much. I did an essay about it on my show, and it's one of the show's worst performing episodes. And every time I think about that, I think, man, I guess I shouldn't write more for this show. Just kidding.
No, I consider that more just like 10-2. It's dependent on the game, man. That's a little podcasting behind the scenes. You could have one of the best episodes ever, but if no one cares about the game itself that you're talking about, it's not going to hit as much as you think. You
would think, but the last time I checked, my best performing episode, or maybe it's number 2, Final Fantasy 13.
13's pretty big though.
It's
polarizing,
it's bigly
but it's big.
Hated. It's bigly disliked.
That could be it too. That could be it too.
13's a good game. Just for everybody that's listening. So is 8. They're all good. Relax. You can check all of that out. Still Loading podcast on Twitch and socials on Discord as well. You can check out our links. I've already kind of plugged those before, so I won't plug them again. Check out the socials. Just a quick reminder, I'm on TikTok and YouTube doing shorts as well. TikToks and shorts, that is. I don't really do Twitter anymore. I don't really want to. So please follow us on Blue Sky or Instagram instead. You can check all that out in the description. But with that, talking around the game is what I anticipated from the start. I think we did that. If you want to continue the convo, join the Discord, at us on socials, either of us. But until then, Josh, thank you again for joining. I think I've taken up enough of your time and the listeners' time, and I want to thank both you and the listeners for sticking around. Stick with us until next time. Coming next week is Final Fantasy I. We're going all the way back to the roots this time. And until then, I'm your host as always. I'm Rick. We're signing off for now. Take care.